Well, welcome to Economics 562. I'm Dr. Schwiff. Let me give you a little bit of a background on myself before we get started. I think that helps kind of make a little bit of a connection between us. So I have a PhD in economics. I am an economist, and my PhD is from Texas A&M University at College Station in economics. I earned that in 1977. I've spent just at 11 years in corporations in the United States. From 1980 to 1985, I was the manager of research and analysis for the Adolph Coors Company in Golden, Colorado. And in case you don't know Adolph Coors Company, when I was with the company, we were a Fortune 500 company. We made beer, had about 15,000 employees, and our gross was about $1 billion. I worked with Coors from 1980 to 1985, and then in 1985 I moved from the Adolph Coors Company to the Schuck Corporation, which was a real estate development corporation. I moved as vice president of strategic planning and then president of a research division of the corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary, and I was a president of the research division. A really interesting job there in the sense that I was the only corporate officer that actually reported to the chairman of the board. I did not report to the president of the corporation. I reported to the chairman of the board. I was with that company from 1985 to 1990. Interesting story in that we went bankrupt in 1990. And I always tell my students here in America that my experience has been being able to drive a company into the ground, but not necessarily being able to make a company successful. I can tell you, those of you who haven't gone through bankruptcy, it is not a lot of fun, and I cannot recommend it to you at all. It was a really difficult time for me. Then in 1990, my wife and I came here to Texas A&M University Commerce, and I've been here ever since and enjoy it. And so that would have me here just to keep you up to speed, roughly 20 years that I've been on the faculty here. As an economist, just to give you a quick little bit of background, my area, you'll find it somewhat of perhaps a contradiction, but I have two areas of primary research. I'm one of the, and I don't mean this by way of being boastful, but there are about 15 to 20 economists in the world right now who are doing research in the question of the damages to an economy from invasive animal species. And I'm one of those 20, and my daughter is one of the others, and she and I actually go all over the world doing work on estimating the damages to an economy from an invasive animal species. For example, brown tree snakes or certain types of birds, even diseases. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting area that I do. And the other research that I do is to work on how cities grow at their edges. And I've been doing interesting work using some models of the human brain called artificial neural network models. We've been trying to develop strategies to use those type of computer simulations to model how a city grows at its edges. So at any rate, so interesting kind of things that I do from a research point of view. I still have a consulting business that I have in which I go all over the world doing this type of stuff. So I still am actively involved in the corporate sector and working with private sector companies. So I do keep up on sort of the interface between economics and business and management, which is a good way to begin to talk about what our course is going to be about. So let me just show you again. This is our textbook. It is Managerial Economics, the 6th edition by Paul Keat and Philip Young. Now, let me just sort of start out by talking about what chapters we are going to cover and what chapters we're not going to cover. So, and in a sense also the order, though your class does have an online web page, but I just wanted to mention this to you as we're getting started. So we're going to cover chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to cover those in that order. We are going to temporarily, but only temporarily, skip chapter 5. We will then move to chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, and then finish up chapter 11. And then after our completion of chapter 11, we will come back to chapter 5, because chapter 5 is how you estimate. So in terms of thinking about what managerial economics is actually about, it's about how we take the ideas of theoretical economics, the ideas of theoretical management, and some of the ideas in estimation, which is basically statistics. How do we put that all together to provide you as a manager some actual tools by which you could estimate the theoretical ideas that we are talking about and then apply them to managerial decision making in the real world. So once we have the tools behind us, the techniques, the theory behind us, then we'll take a look at some estimation techniques. And then right at the end of our time together, what we will do then is statistically estimate some of the very ideas we've talked about, demand and elasticity and cost and production and those things. And then we will actually derive some empirical estimates of the concepts and then look at those empirical estimates and then see what they would tell us in kind of a role-playing or game-playing perhaps approach, so that we can use them as a way to actually make decisions. Okay? So that's kind of the outline of the course. Okay? Also, one of the things that I'm big on in managerial economics is talking about real-world problems and applications and trying to introduce those to you as best we can as we go along. I do realize the difference between your culture and mine, though I have been to China on 7 different occasions and am heading to China, in fact, this May to teach a course for 2 weeks in Beijing. But nonetheless, I will try to be as sensitive as I can about the differences in terms of Chinese managerial practice and that in the United States. But I think we've got enough here to also give some examples and case studies as we go along. And during the semester, as we interact, if you have some, if we have some problems, I'm sorry, if we have some problems, you know, you can always email me, and communicate with me. All right. EMBA. Okay, here we are. All right. I love technology. I messed it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And here, by way of introduction, all right, so that's where we're working now. This is chapter 1, and we're kind of doing chapter 1 and chapter 2 together. And these are introductory concepts. I think the text does a reasonably good job. Okay, now, and this gives us an opportunity to talk about some of the things that we won't be talking about and some of the things that we will be. Okay, we're going to be talking about economics, as you see here. Now, the issue, of course, is that, all right, in terms of the economics in principle that we're going to be talking about, of course, is capitalism, with the primary examples of that being used in the United States. To the extent to which those don't directly apply to you in your native country, you're going to have to make those adjustments, okay? And then we're going to be looking at managerial decision-making over here. And I think what's kind of fun about this class, managerial economics, is that it combines both of these areas, okay? So we'll talk about these guys. These are important to us. Now, oftentimes this is going to be a problem, too, that I realize you've not perhaps had the best preparation in terms of microeconomics that perhaps you could, or you had it maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And so we will review those terms,